Emil Kadlec here with the Line of Scrimmage DFS cash game show and a little GPP and some very important ownership. And we're here with the scholar, John Laub, and the old man of fantasy, Emil Kadlec. How's it going, John?
It's going good. I'm actually really looking forward to tomorrow's slate. If you didn't realize, there's 5 games at 1 o'clock and 6 games at 4 o'clock. And I don't remember in my lifetime, I mean, it must have happened, but never where there's actually more 4 o'clock games. Sometimes you might have like 6 and 4. Usually there's often 7 and 3. But to actually have so many 4 o'clock games kind of gives me a longer day to look forward. I'm kind of excited about that. And we have a lot of great options for our viewers tonight to put together winning lineups.
Yeah, I like it. I think they said it was because of the Masters that they shifted it.
Yes.
I don't know why they would shift it that
Yeah,
much.
so
But
I read this. What I was surprised, it's because the Masters is teeing off early,
okay.
and they want to finish by 4 o'clock. They don't want to compete with the NFL. So that's the goal.
Interesting.
I read the same thing somewhere.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's so much fun to watch, 8 games at once or whatnot. I watch the Red Zone. And when there's only 3 or 2, it's just like...
When it's 2, it's like...
It's dying. It just shows you how much you enjoy,
2 is bad.
That spontaneity. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, here we go to the first slide. And I'm already seeing that problem again. Darn it. Do you see it?
Yes, I see it.
All righty.
Ladies and gentlemen, we begin every show with the Scholar Sleepers. I usually prefer to give you 3 sleepers each week. But this week I felt there was a need to provide a 4th. I think I've done it one other week. But this is one of those weeks where I've got to give you a 4th sleeper. And at the top, this week I'm going to start with the quarterback who's lower priced. Now, there are a lot of nice options under 50 or under 6,000. And I scoured this category of quarterback, and I came to the conclusion that Drew Lock, to me, offers the best upside and salary savings. Emil, over the last 2 weeks, Drew Lock has scored 21 and 33 DraftKings points. It has been an ugly road to those points. Anyone can tell I'm a Broncos fan. The Broncos have fallen behind early, and they have to play catch-up in the 4th quarter. And they finally unleash Drew Lock, and he gets a lot of points late in the game. But I don't care for DFS. All that matters is when the gun goes off, that Drew Lock has those points. He has thrown 5 touchdowns in the last 2 games. Last week I had mentioned he has some scrambling ability, scored a rushing touchdown against the Falcons. He has thrown for 300 and 248 yards in back-to-back games. But I like this matchup a lot, Emil. You're looking at an over-under of 50.5. The Broncos are underdogs to the Raiders, and the Raiders can score points. So we know that Denver should be, according to Vegas, and according to how the game script has gone recently, Denver should be playing from behind in the 4th quarter. Well, what does that mean? Drew Lock is throwing the football often. I like this matchup, and I was looking, let me see, quarterback points allowed. The Raiders on the year are giving over 21 points per game to opposing quarterbacks. They've surrendered 13 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. So the Broncos have the opportunity here. What I believe is happening is the Broncos coach, Vic Fangio, is conservative. It's so bad in the first half. And run, throw. Run, throw, run. They're doing it with Melvin Gordon. They fall behind. This isn't the no-fly zone of the Super Bowl champions in in the year Super Bowl 50. This defense gives up points. So they fall behind. And then he has to unleash Schumer and tell Schumer to go get him. We're falling behind. And then Drew Lock has to throw because of the game script. As long as Fangio is going to run and punt in the first half, the Broncos are going to fall behind. I don't see there to be any difference this week. So I like Drew Lock here. He's not a perfect quarterback. There are questions about him. I get that. But there is fantasy production here. Over-under, game script, and how the team plays football tells me that Drew Lock is a nice value here at 5,500. All we need is 3 times value, so we're looking for 17 points. He should easily get above 17 points. I gave everyone Mike Davis. Emil, he might be owned 60%. You're talking about a starting running back on the Carolina Panthers in a game with a 50 over-under. Everything pinpoints to this player doing well, and he's bare minimum. I couldn't not put him on the list. He's
I'll tell you what, John.
What?
According to our DFS ownership on our site, footballdials.com, 45%. 45%.
I mean, you have to take the free square, Emil. It just, sometimes in cash games, there are a lot of smart people who are playing this game, and the value just sticks out. Now, I would make this argument. There's no way I'm playing him in a GPP. Not a chance. But in a cash game, when he started, he had a 3-game smash here. Against the Chargers, 23 points. Against the Cardinals, 22. Against the Falcons, 30 points. Then against Chicago, 12.5. He's been all right since. But I believe here, the Buccaneers are good against the run. You should throw against the Buccaneers. That's what the defense.
As a matter of fact,
to the passing game.
They played Tampa Bay at Tampa Bay in week 2, and he had a 15-point game. He had an okay game, but he had 8 targets and 8 catches for 74 yards. He got almost all of his yardage, all of his fantasy points. He meaning Mike Davis on the passing game.
And that was with Christian McCaffrey in the game, right?
Was it? I forget when Christian got hurt.
McCaffrey played the first 2 games of the year.
Okay.
So now somewhere's in there, McCaffrey might have gotten hurt in that game. But then Emil, look at 15.5 points. Guess what? That is 3 times value. I expect him to at least be targeted in this game at least 6 times. Let's say he catches 5 passes for 40 yards. Right there's 9 points. 9 points. With 3 times value, we only need 12. If he gets in running or if he gets a pass receiving touchdown, he smashes. And the way the offense works, you have to have the short passing game as an extension of the running game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, every time I see the Buccaneers, man, Ted Bowles, he is so good at getting those linebackers free or a blitzing safety, and they crash the holes and they nail the running back from behind. It is very hard to run against Tampa Bay. So you throw the ball. You get your running backs out in space on quick passes. I like Mike Davis here for 4,000. Take the free square. Now, if you want to differentiate in a GPP or you just want to try in a cash game to differentiate against a couple of your friends, I like Leonard Fournette a lot in this game, Emil.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers should win this game. They're coming off a tough loss. It's hard for me to see Brady having 2 terrible games. But how do you protect a veteran quarterback? You run the football. Leonard Fournette has basically taken over the backfield in Tampa Bay. He has scored double-digit points 3 weeks in a row. Granted, 15.7, 10.1, 10.1. But he has not scored a rushing touchdown. We know those can come and go at any moment. We remember what LeGarrette Blount did with Tom Brady in New England with the 18 touchdowns. This is a good smash spot. Right now, Leonard Fournette appears to be the goal line back and the pass-catching back. These numbers are silly in the last 3 games, Emil. 6 targets, 7 targets. Receptions, 6, 3, 6. Leonard Fournette is the goal line back and the pass catcher. If he gets into the end zone, you're looking at 16 to 18 points minimum. If you want to differentiate, you're looking for a different option. He's only $5,500. That's a fair price for a starting running back in an offense against a poor defense. Oh, let me get here, too. How bad has Carolina been? Carolina for the season, giving up 28 points a game, basically 28.5 points a game to opposing running backs. They've surrendered 63 receptions. Oh, I didn't realize this. For the year, Carolina has given up more receptions to opposing running backs than any team in the NFL.
Ooh.
Guess who's third worst? Tampa Bay. So you have 2 running backs here who are in prime spots to get peppered with targets. And especially at the point for PPR, we absolutely love the idea that our running backs are going to get 5, 6, 7 targets. Here's even more interesting. Carolina's given up 9 rushing touchdowns to running back. Tampa Bay's given up 7. Now, Emil, I would not play both of these backs in the same game. Just by if for some way Teddy Bridgewater and Tom Brady both go off and throw 3 touchdowns each. I don't want both. Choose one or the other. If you want to differentiate in a GPP, I love Leonard Fournette. I think his ownership might be low. Hey, could you look that up? What is Leonard Fournette's ownership, Emil? Do you have that by any chance?
Yeah. Buried here in somewhere. Let me see. I have too many windows open, but I will find it momentarily. Oh, here it is.
No problem. For that,
well, he's 7%.
That's nice in a GPP. What is? And you said Mike Davis was 41,
45,
something like that, right?
45.
40. So you almost, to me, the ownership is dictating that you go from Mike Davis to Leonard Fournette, right?
Yeah.
You just can't have that much ownership in a GPP.
In a GPP, yeah, sounds good.
And one player that I can't believe isn't getting enough conversation. We hinted at him. I think we put him on our sleeper list like 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But Christian Kirk, if you haven't been looking at him, he has scored double-digit points 5 weeks in a row. But in the last 3 weeks, Emil, he has exceeded 20 points. 22.5 against Dallas, 20.7 against Seattle, 26.3 against Miami. He's also seen an uptick in targets. Against Dallas, you could say, wow, how he got 3 targets, scored twice, and had 22 points. Okay, that's incredibly efficient. You're not going to get that type of efficiency. But maybe on film, the coaching staff, Kyler Murray noticed something. In the last 2 games, Christian Kirk has had 16 targets total, 10 receptions for 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he is a little heavy touchdown dependent. But my friends, he's playing the Bills. This is the highest over-under on the slate, 56.5. And when I last looked, DeAndre Hopkins still suited up in the Arizona Cardinals. So you have to deploy resources to deal with DeAndre Hopkins. And if you haven't noticed, Kyler Murray had over 100 yards rushing last week. We're going to talk about that in a second.
In only 11 carries.
You have to deploy assets to deal with Kyler Murray. Well, what is that doing? That is leaving Christian Kirk in prime single coverage. He breaks one tackle. He gains 2 yards of separation on a slant. He's gone. 5,700. I want a piece of that Arizona and Buffalo game. Christian Kirk, to me, is one of the best smash players at that salary. So there we have it. My scholar sleepers. Mike Davis, Leonard Fournette, and Christian Kirk. Emil, what do you think?
I like it. It's a lot of fun. I had a question. DeAndre had just a scary game last week. He only had 3 targets, 3 catches for 30 yards, no touchdowns. The week before against Seattle, he had 26 fantasy points, 10 targets. He's had pretty darn good games the whole year, but 3 targets. That's interesting. Now this week, who's guarding him? Davios White.
Tre'Davious White should cover Hopkins, but he's also questionable. So which is even leaving, to me, Christian Kirk in a better situation. Now, do I think DeAndre Hopkins will get more than 3 targets? Yes, I do. But has Christian Kirk shown me that he can be highly efficient and productive on a low target value? Yes. You and I have played fantasy football long enough, Emil. There are outliers statistically. And right now, Christian Kirk is having kind of one of those outlier seasons. But it's the offense. This offense is so productive because Kyler Murray is having that MVP type season. To me, in the conversation now with Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, and a bunch of other interesting players. But Kyler Murray, I like Christian Kirk here. But yes, do I think Hopkins will be better? I do. But also, what's the price difference? Hopkins is actually a little cheap this week. 7,700. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't realize he was. Last 3 weeks, he's been 82, 82, and 83. This week, he's 7,700. Do you have ownership on Hopkins by any chance, Emil?
Yep. Let me go over to that.
Just out of curiosity there.
Yep. I have a tendency here to it just take me about 3 more seconds here because somehow in all my tabs all right, here we go. Hopkins is 16.5% owned. He's the 3rd most owned wide receiver.
So people believe he's going to bounce back. So let me see. So I like the pivot on Kirk also because he's got to be a lower percentage. I like that play with.
He's 7.7%. Yeah, Kirk is 7.7% owned.
Interesting. That's still a higher percentage than I expected, but I like that pivot off of Hopkins there. But that tells us the wisdom of the masses believe that Hopkins is going to have a good game this week.
Yeah, interesting. All right, let's off to the next slide.
And every week we give you our Fantastic Four. Now, lucky that last week there was no storms, no rain. I didn't have to change early Sunday morning. And I'm staying away right now from that Cleveland-Houston game. Even though I do like the matchups, and I so badly wanted to put Brandon Cooks in here, but the weather is a concern, folks. So I'm not putting Brandon Cooks right now or anyone. But a GPP option, I just want to say one thought while it's in my head. I think Nick Chubb is an interesting GPP pivot in that game. But that right now we're doing our Fantastic Four. Emil, I got to begin with Kyler Murray. The numbers are now getting to be absolutely silly. Last 4 games, 42, 41, 29, and 30 DraftKings points.
That's just crazy. That is just crazy.
It's crazy. He's thrown 9 touchdowns in the last 4 games. But more importantly, Emil, 4 rushing touchdowns.
Wow.
He's on pace for over 1,000 yards rushing. He has 543 yards. I honestly thought when I'm like a little nerd on Monday night. I like to kind of think about pricing in my own head. And I thought Kyler Murray might be $9,000. I really did.
Wow.
The
Big
way
difference.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's having that Patrick Mahomes of 2018, the Lamar Jackson of last year. I think within 2 weeks, Kyler Murray's going to be $9,000. Emil, the numbers are out of control. They're absolutely silly. The only complaint is he's throwing a little. He has 7 interceptions, and I'm nitpicking here. 16 touchdowns to 17 interceptions. Not an outstanding ratio, but everything else. 2,130 yards, 500 passing, 500 and where is it? Why don't 543 yards rushing. He's averaging 31.4 points. And what sealed the deal? I watched that game against the Bills versus the Seahawks last week.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson made some mistakes, which was uncanny. He hurt me in one of my one of my lineups because I had him and Tyler Lockett. He fumbled the ball. I think he fumbled twice. At least I know he fumbled once. He got sacked and he dropped the ball and the defender recovered it. He threw 2 interceptions and he did it at critical time that cost the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
But if you watch that game, Russell Wilson had an outstanding, yardage-wise. Let me see. Let me look back.
By the way, on Murray, you talked about his interceptions. He's got 7 interceptions. 5 of them came in weeks 1 through 3. So the last 5 games, he's only had 2. He's played Carolina, Giants, Dallas, Seattle, and then Miami. So he had he had the bunch of interceptions against Detroit, 3 in week 3. But maybe he's fine tuning a little bit. Maybe instead of throwing those balls, he's running, and he's so darned elusive. He can get away with it, and make it more productive. So that's an interesting point.
Yeah, no, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. I should have looked more closely. That's why 2 minds are better than 1, my friend. So last week, Russell Wilson had 390 yards against the Bills. 390. And the Bills linebackers are good, but I don't think anyone can corral Kyler Murray in the open field. And you know what I love about watching him?
Yep.
Unlike Robert Griffin used to take too many big hits, Kyler Murray doesn't get hit. He's very smart with how he runs. Mm-hmm. Robert Griffin could have been spectacular, but he liked to be macho or something. And he always got whacked so hard, and it hurt his career. Mm-hmm. He just, the body isn't meant to take it. I think it's a little bit happened to Cam Newton. But Cam Newton survived longer because he's such a big, physical, strong human being. But Kyler Murray, man, if you watch him, do you ever see him get queued up and smacked?
Not really. He's very clever. He goes down, he goes out of bounds, but he still gets the yardage.
Yeah, and that keeps him healthy. So, knock on wood, I hope I didn't do anything that hurt. But I like everything lines up for a big day. And Emil, I'm not a genius, but when Vegas tells me 56.5 for the possible league MVP at home,
wow,
I have to take it. And I honestly thought it was going to be $9,000. So when I saw on Wednesday, because I don't look at DFS until Wednesday, I need like a mental break, and I'm working and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. When I opened up on Wednesday and I saw 8,000, I was like, wow, that's a little cheaper than I thought it was going to be. So I love it, 8,000. Running back, Aaron Jones. What's the ownership on this? Because it's probably going to be pretty high, right, Emil? Isn't Aaron Jones going to be up there?
Let's go take a look here real quick. Yeah, he's 27%. He's behind Mike Davis, so huge. I mean, the matchup and the fact he's been back for a week, He survived, so I think people are thinking maybe he'll take the next step up.
In the matchup against Jacksonville, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a smash. It's a smash spot. We know that Aaron Jones has the capability to put up 48 points against Detroit, 22 points against Atlanta. Every other game has been double-digit points in the teens. So we know the floor is probably 14 points with a ceiling of 30. I won't put over 48. That's always a special game. But when I can get a player with the floor of 15, ceiling of 30, and if you've watched Aaron Jones over the last 2 years, he erupts. He just erupts for these huge games. Either the scheme or the defense, the offensive line opens up holes, he gets to the edge, and he explodes. I think it's one of those weeks. I'm not worried about the high ownership in cash. I'll outdo other people at other positions. Gotcha. I'm going to take Aaron Jones here for 7,100. Now, we've discussed a lot of value at running back. So what I wanted to do for our readers is who else do I like who's higher priced? And I debated a lot between Nick Chubb and Miles Sanders. I like the matchup for Nick Chubb better, but I came to the conclusion that Nick Chubb to me is a little bit more of a GPP play. The match against Houston's unbelievable, but he's coming off an injury. But if he plays, I believe he's healthy, right? I mean, that's my – if the Browns are going to put him in, he's healthy. But then we got the problem with the weather. And we saw what that did when we had the Raiders go into Cleveland, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Emil?
Uh-huh.
So I said to myself, Nick Chubb is, to me, looks like a GPP play. So I'm going to put Miles Sanders in the cash game. I don't think he's getting a lot of discussion. I haven't heard people have been talking about Aaron Jones. People are talking about Mike Davis. I have not heard a lot of people talk about Miles Sanders. 6,400 for the starting running back, who is their best pass catcher in the backfield. We've seen this backfield has been productive. I had Boston Scott on a couple teams in the last few weeks. Scott's been all right. And Boston Scott isn't close to Miles Sanders' ability. Miles Sanders, in every game but one, been in 5 games this year. He had over 20 points twice. He had over 14 points 4 times. And his worst game was against the 49ers with 9 points. So we have a real nice floor of 10 points, and we have a nice 22-point ceiling. And if we got lucky, we could go high. We know Miles Sanders is an excellent pass catcher. I like him in this game. I'm putting him in the cash game. And I have it because there's value at other positions, wide receiver, and we gave you some cheap running backs. So I feel pretty good giving you Aaron Jones and Miles Sanders in your Fantastic Four this week.
By the way, just so you know. Pardon?
What's Miles Sanders' ownership like?
Miles Sanders is 9.9%, and Chubb is 5%.
And so even that tells me Nick Chubb is more of your GPP.
Yeah.
So I like that. We have Aaron Jones and Miles Sanders to build around our backfield. I had mentioned that Arizona game, how much I like this to smash, 56 points. I follow Vegas. John Brown is coming off arguably he's had 3 big games. Opening week against the Jets, 19. Second game of the year, 18 against Miami. Then he was injured, hurt, out of games. He really had a little bit of a slump. Finally, he broke out last week against Seattle. 11 targets, 8 receptions, 99 yards. He didn't get in the end, but he scored 17.9 points. I like him here. A little bit of a revenge factor. He's going back to Arizona. Arizona gives up a lot of points, folks. Arizona can be burned on the back end. There's no question about that. They're going to have to deal with Stephon Diggs. I love that even more. You have Gabriel Davis. I love that. John Brown is due for that big 40-yard touchdown. We haven't seen it. It's coming. I think this is the narrative game. I know you're not supposed to use narrative, but I do think it can inspire and motivate players. The matchup's good too, though. It's not just the narrative. The matchup, highest over-under, 56 points expected. We know that Josh Allen is having a good year. Kyler Murray's nearly unstoppable. We need to save salary. So John Brown here at 5,300, Emil. That's my Fantastic Four. Now, it's a little bit pricier than we normally give. It's about $1,000. It's $26,800. But you still have $4,640 to build the rest of your cash game lineup around. And there is value all over the board, and we'll give you a place to go find that value in our next slide. But I've also given you some sleepers earlier. You can build a real nice lineup around this Fantastic Four.
Wonderful. That's a very good one. Off to the next slide.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you want to finish out with your cash game lineup. We have an optimizer that can help you out. You can plug our Fantastic Four in with a cash game. Tell the optimizer you want a cash game main slate, and it'll give you the other four players. Or you can go to footballdiehards.com. We have great articles for you to read right now. Bob Harris, DFS, 3 and out. The Hall of Famer gives you 3 players that he loves and 1 player he says stay away from this week. Gary Davenport, the Shadow knows. He gives you matchups between cornerbacks and wide receivers. If you want to find a good undervalued wide receiver, look at the Shadow Knows. Look at our ownership percentages on footballdiehards.com or use our optimizer. We'll help you out there. Our teammate, Justin Lanero, DFS, digging in the crates daily. He always has great lower price players for salary savings there for you. My Scholars DFS sheet of knowledge is up there right now with your top shelf investments, your value plays, your fading plays, and some sample lineups. I update them every Sunday morning. Go check those out if you want to see. And then we have DFS cash game and tournament breakdowns by Kyle Dvorak. They're also up on footballdiehards.com. All of those great articles and our optimizer are there for you.
And including the ownership percentage for DFS that we talk about on this show is also there. And it's rest of the season pricing, so it's only $12 for the rest of the season. Whoa. And if you use Diehards as the discount code, it's 15% off, so it's just a smidgen over $10 for the rest of the season. Kind of hard not to do that.
That's a great deal, folks.
All right, off to GPP.
Emil, you know we like to do a contrarian stack. There's going to be thousands of lineups tomorrow in GPP contests around the Bills and the Cardinals. Some are going to stack with the Cardinals, Kyler Murray side, and come back with the Bills. Some are going to stack with the Josh Allen side, come back with the Cardinals. I think a sneaky stack would be DeAndre Hopkins and Josh Allen. But everyone knows that. We also know that there are going to be people stacking the Rams and the Seahawks. Russell Wilson, Jared Goff. That's obvious. Wanted to look at a contrarian stack that everyone can start and put into our optimizer and build a lineup around. And I started immediately. I thought about Carson Wentz. He's playing good football, very underrated. He's better this year than the narrative dictates. People are thinking that Carson Wentz is having a terrible year, but he's actually been much better than people give him credit for. I'm trying to pop up right now. There he is, 5,900. Carson Wentz is averaging over 21 points per game on DraftKings. And in 2 of the last 3 weeks, Emil, of the last 3 weeks, he has scored over 30 DraftKings points.
Ooh.
What is Carson Wentz's ownership there?
Let's take a look. You'd think I'd be on that page. I'm all over the place. His ownership is 2.3%.
Oh, that's what we like in a quarterback with 30-point upside, folks. Carson Wentz has 30-point upside. I love it. Let's look at what his game logs are here. So Dallas, that was a weird game, wasn't it, Emil? What a strange game. Watching that game, 23-9. The world thought that the Eagles were going to smash them, but Carson Wentz had 12.6. But before that, 32, 30.5, 19.5, 22.5, 23.5. Carson Wentz is playing better football than he's given credit for. And people, his receivers have not been healthy, and he had no Miles Sanders. Usually I don't do this, but I'm old enough to remember when I used to play Thurman Thomas and Jim Kelly together. I also used to play Ricky Watt Young together. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to see a little education, go back. Look at the numbers that Thurman Thomas and Jim Kelly put together before anyone heard of PPR. I used to do that in standard scoring league. And look at what Ricky Waters did the year that the 49ers won the Super Bowl with our Steve Young. I played running, but they have to be pass-catching running back. Another one. Go back and look at the numbers Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson put together in those superstar years by LaDainian. Because LaDainian was a pass-catching monster. And Phillip Rivers was entering his prime. So it is rare, but you can put a pass-catching back with a quarterback. I don't recommend it often, but I'm going to do it this weekend. I know most people are going to tell you it's a no-no, and I get it. But we're doing a contrarian stack here. What if Miles Sanders caught 2 touchdowns? Hey, it might only be a 5% or a 3% bet. But what if he caught 2? You would be so far ahead of everything. And if Miles Sanders has 5 receptions from Carson Wentz for 50 yards, we are golden. So when the opportunity presents itself, I'm willing to put a pass-catching back with my quarterback. It's rare. But I'm going to do it in this contrarian stack. Then, I needed another player on the Eagles. And Emil, do you have? How about Fulgham? I think wasn't Fulgham. I looked quickly. Isn't his ownership pretty high? Travis Fulgham of the Eagles.
Let me get to that real quick, or maybe not so quick. He is 3.8. Fulgham is 3.8%.
Ooh, but Fulgham cost $6,400.
Yes, and so Rieger is 4,200, and he's 5.2.
5.2%.
Yep.
So you could go Fulgham, I guess. I chose Rager for the salary savings because to me it's significant. Wow, so people actually like Rager, like myself, more than Fulgham. It must be the cost.
It's got to be the cost. Yeah.
And Rager, if you saw him at TCU, and I scouted Rager a ton, had him on my college fantasy football teams. He is a home run hitter. He has that, he can score from outside the 50. We haven't seen it at the NFL level, but it's going to come. Maybe not this year. He's a rookie. But by next year, that upside is there. I'm looking for ceiling. In GPP, I'm looking for ceiling. I'm taking a little bit of a leap of faith based on my scouting reports at TCU pre-draft. Looking at this offense, I'm taking Jalen Rager at 4,200, hoping he finally hits that ceiling. The biggest ceiling player in this game, Emil, is Darius Slayton, in my opinion. Darius Slayton scored 31 points against Pittsburgh opening week and 24 points against Dallas in week 5. There's other games where he scores 2, And other games he scores double digits. He's all over the place. Consistency is a nightmare. But I'm going for ceiling. And if you've been watching, your yards are unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
They throw to him deep. Daniel Jones just cannot connect with them, Emil. Drives me crazy. But if he connects, Darius Slayton could easily have 5 receptions for 110 yards and a touchdown. He's 4,800. Again, I'm looking for ceiling. I want ceiling. And what's his ownership? I got to think people are off of Darius Slayton anymore. What's his ownership?
Let's take a look here. Okay, well, you think if I could spell his name right, I could find it. I can't do much tonight. He is 2.05% owned, 2% owned.
That's perfect in a GPP.
Yeah, that's pretty low.
Perfect. You're looking for a ceiling. And I do know this. Dallas Goedert is kind of the cash game tight end. I even put him in one of my lineups on the sheet of knowledge. What is the ownership of Evan Ingram? I think it's lower. Is it not, Emil?
Let's take a look here. Evan Ingram is 7.7%.
And what is Goddard?
Goddard is, well, he's 11.5. He's the second most owned tight end, just under Waller.
So you can't go, in my opinion, it forces us to move to Evan Ingram. He's been good lately, people. If you haven't been watching the Giants, he's been peppered with targets 3 weeks. These numbers are silly, my friends. 9 targets against the Eagles. 10 targets against the Buccaneers. 10 targets against the the football club. He's got 6, 5, and 5 receptions. He's only scored once. He scored double-digit points each of the last 3 weeks. And I believe the Eagles they're not very good against, they're 32nd, Emil. They're dead last against opposing tight end.
Ouch.
Ouch. You know? And so I like Ingram this week a lot. And here's what I like. This is a very cheap GPP. Look at the salary. We're only spending $25,800.
Oof.
We have $6,000 per player remaining, and one of them is a defense, my friends. You can spend up on low-owned wide receivers who are in smash spots. And it's interesting. I actually think Nick Chubb is a nice one in this lineup, too. Emil, what's the ownership on Chubb about?
Oh, let's take a look here. 5%. 4.9.
You know, I kind of like Nick Chubb in this lineup. Because I'm looking for, Chubb has a 30-point. He could easily score 2 or 3 touchdowns against that horrific Texan defense. And you're getting ownership that is way lower than the Aaron Jones, than the Mike Davis. Ooh, what if you had Leonard Fournette and Nick Chubb in this line? Just a thought. You didn't hear that, everyone. Go to our lineup optimizer. I'm going to strike that from the record, just like the judge does.
We'll cut it from the videotape. We'll eliminate that from the videotape.
Cut it from the videotape, Emil. No one heard that. But that gives you a nice pivot in a GPP for a different lineup, my friends, at pretty reasonable salary. I think you could still get a stud wide receiver in there, too.
Probably could. That's a pretty low salary.
Let me see who are the top wide receivers. So Adams, Kupp, and Hopkins. Wow, this is shocking. Michael Thomas is coming in at only 11%.
And how much is Michael Thomas? What's his salary?
$7,400. You're not going to get much cheaper than that from Michael Thomas.
No. If he has a 90% of what he was doing last year, He's had a
Yeah.
week back. He could easily, be a pretty highly productive wide receiver this week. You pretty much filled out
Now,
your roster here with Chubb, Leonard Fournette, and Michael Thomas. We got no spots left here in the GPP.
I think you could do that.
It's possible.
Right? And the
go run the
defense.
numbers.
Yeah. Don't tell anyone. We're striking this from the record, everyone.
That's right. It'll
But
be
here's
deleted
another
shortly.
Here's another interesting underpriced star. Terry McLaurin
Oh.
against Detroit. That's an interesting pivot. Only on 7%, 6.88. Trying to find really,
What's his
Terry
salary?
McLaurin, that's
What's Terry's salary?
6,800.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
good.
and if he's going to be that low owned. That's not bad. Interesting. All right, my friends, that is our contrarian stack this week. And please strike from the record the last 5 minutes of our conversation. You heard nothing. What was it? What was the Get Smart when remember he goes, I know nothing?
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah, that's
right.
Lieutenant. That's Hogan's Heroes.
Hogan's Heroes. I know nothing.
I see nothing. I know nothing. Yeah.
I see nothing. You saw nothing. You heard nothing. It's going to be stricken from the record.
Sounds great. Well, that's a blast. That was a really good one. I'm really looking
Great
forward to
show.
put the lineups in tonight and tomorrow morning.
Yes, I already got some lineups in, and everyone remember, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, I have my updated sheet in case I hear really bad weather or someone's at COVID. We might get a negative test. So always go to footballdiehards.com, check out my sheet of knowledge, and then